Who's moving up and down our rankings? Plus, Mets starting pitcher Carlos Carrasco is out 4 to 6 weeks with a tear in his hamstring. Let's talk about it next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5, a podcast that gets you caught up fast on the fantasy news and advice that you need to know. Follow and stream us on Spotify and anywhere else podcasts are found. Today is Friday, March 19th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Chris Towers. And let's start off with this Carlos Carrasco injury, 4 to 6 weeks. He might not actually pitch in a Mets uniform, Chris, until June. So what is your initial reaction to this, and how far do you think he drops down the rankings?
Yeah, I'm of a couple different minds on this one. On the one hand, one of my initial reactions was, well, what's the argument for drafting Carrasco ahead of, Luis Severino, Noah Syndergaard, the guys who are coming back from Tommy John surgery, because they could be back by June. And at least in Severino's case, I think he's better than Carrasco. But, then you look at other players who've had grade 2 hamstring strains. A lot of them do come back in 4 weeks. You'll occasionally see some that linger. But one that I noticed, it was another pitcher, was CC Sabathia, who was in his mid-30s when he suffered his in 2017, and he basically missed 3 weeks before coming back. So it's not out of the question that Carrasco's back in, mid-April. That would be a month from now. So I moved him down to 47 at starting pitcher. That's right behind Framber Valdez, who obviously has his own injury concern, but we learned recently that he won't be having surgery for his fractured finger. So, I got the two of them right behind Shohei Ohtani, who, I figure they might all throw similar amounts of innings.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more pessimistic on Carlos Carrasco. Dropped him to SP49 in my Roto ranks and SP54 in head-to-head points. Speaking of rankings, lots of fantasy baseball drafts are going to happen this weekend. Chris, give me a few names that are currently rising up your ranks.
Vlad Jr. is one. Vladimir Guerrero. He is, there's never been a question about talent. And coming into spring, everybody was all a Twitter about how much weight he'd lost and, best shape of his life. And for me, my default when someone says I'm in the best shape of my life is, that's great. You probably look better in your jeans, but I don't care about that for baseball. I've heard way too many guys say that and have it not mean anything. But in Vlad Jr.'s case, so far in spring training, at least, we're only talking about like 8 or 9 games, but his average launch angle is right around 17 degrees. And in, last season, it was like 4 degrees. As a rookie, it was like 6 to 7 degrees. So we know he hits the ball incredibly hard. We know he's got good plate discipline. If he's hitting the ball in the air consistently, I mean, the sky's the limit. You're talking about a, potential Freddie Freeman, or, I don't want to make a Juan Soto comp, but, he was a better prospect than Juan Soto at one time. So there's no limit as to how good Vlad can be. And on the pitching side, Aaron Savale is a guy who's moved up quite a bit for me. I think I liked him a little bit more than most people did coming into spring, but he's unveiled a new pitching motion. He's got a shorter arm path to the plate. He's throwing from a little higher angle, throwing more four-seam fastballs. He's introduced a split change into his arsenal. And, it all just points to what I think can be a much better version of Savale. And he's been a guy who's had incredibly good command and control in the past. So I think there's a lot of upside there.
You don't have to talk me into Aaron Savale. I am right there with you, Chris. How about a few names that are falling down the rankings right now?
Yeah, Cody Bellinger, someone that just since the, my first run of rankings, I guess he has fallen. I initially had him as a first rounder. I moved him a little bit down. He's down to 18th now. So, it's only like 7 spots, but when you're talking about the top of the draft, that does matter. And it's all just, we don't know how he's going to react to this shoulder surgery. He got back into game action for the first time, I believe, on Thursday or maybe Wednesday. So it's more just questions about how he's going to look in, when he's able to play. And then I've moved Kevin Gausman down. There was a note recently from Mercury News out in the San Francisco area that Gausman is not throwing his splitter in spring training. They're it was presented as here's why we're not worried about his performance, because he's been bad in spring training so far. But this just takes me back to his Orioles days when he would finish a season strong. I'd buy in the offseason. His last 20 starts, he had a 3.5 ERA with 10 Ks per nine, burgeoning star Kevin Gausman. And then he would come out, not throw his splitter until the start of the regular season or last start of spring training, and just wouldn't really rely on it in the way he needs to. He really does need to throw his splitter quite a bit. It's his best pitch by far, and the rest of his pitches are, frankly, pretty average at best. So I'm just worried Gausman's not going to have his feel for that pitch, and he's not going to develop the rhythm that he needs to get it right to start the season. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's someone that people are dropping after a rough April.
2 risers for Chris there, Vlad Jr. and Aaron Savale, and 2 that are falling are Cody Bellinger and Kevin Gausman. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. This is your audio outlet for fantasy news and advice in just 5 minutes. If you enjoyed the pod, please leave a 5-star review on Apple. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.